Look, we've all been there, right? That feeling of being totally exhausted. But what if I told you that feeling is just the tip of the iceberg? Today we're going to go way beyond just feeling tired. We're diving deep to unpack the real, biological price of an unpaid sleep debt. Let's get into it.
You know that feeling, right? You miss just a few hours of sleep and the whole world just seems off. It's like you're living in a slightly different, worse reality. Everything feels a little harder, you're more irritable. So why is that? How can a few lost hours of sleep completely change the way you experience the world around you?
And here's the crazy part. There's this huge disconnect between how you feel and what's really going on. Subjectively, you might just think, I'm a little foggy today. I probably just need more coffee. But the objective, biological reality, it's a full-blown crisis. A measurable deficit is building up in your brain and has some really serious consequences.
Now, the real danger here isn't that one epic all-nighter you pulled in college. No. The real killer is the slow, quiet, creeping accumulation of that debt. And a pretty landmark study shows us exactly how this adds up, and it's kind of terrifying.
So, get this. Researchers set up this incredible study where they took a group of healthy adults and limited them to just 6 hours of sleep at night. Which, let's be honest, doesn't sound that crazy, right? That's a pretty normal schedule for a lot of us. They had them do this for 2 weeks straight.
And what happened? Well, it was a disaster, just in slow motion. Day by day, their cognitive performance just tanked. Their reaction times got slower, their attention spans crumbled, and the worst part, it never plateaued. It just kept getting worse and worse and worse.
By the end of those 2 weeks, their performance was just as bad as someone who had been kept awake for 48 hours straight. Let that sink in. 2 weeks of what many people consider kind of getting by sleep had the same cognitive crash as staying up for 2 full days and nights. That is a massive, massive impairment.
Okay, so what is actually going on up there? What does this system crash look like from the inside? Well, to figure that out, we have to look at how sleep deprivation messes with the brain's critical electrical networks. What neuroimaging shows us is a brain that is literally going dark. You've got these key areas, the parts responsible for all your complex thought, for paying attention, for making sense of the world, and they show way less activation. Your prefrontal cortex, which is basically the CEO of your brain, and your parietal lobe, your attention hub, they're pretty much being taken offline. But here's where it gets really weird. While all this is shutting down, one area of the brain goes into absolute overdrive, the thalamus. Now, the thalamus is deep in the brain, and it's like the main relay station for almost all the information coming in from your senses. And when everything else is powering down, the thalamus starts screaming.
And this isn't a good thing, not at all. It's the brain's equivalent of flooring the gas pedal when the engine is already smoking. It's a sign of a system under incredible stress. The thalamus is just desperately trying to pump out arousal signals to keep you from passing out because all those other networks are failing. It's a biological state of emergency.
Okay, so staying awake is one thing, but it goes deeper. Sleep plays this absolutely fundamental role in our ability to learn and adapt, what scientists call plasticity. It turns out there's a really profound reason we can't just be learning machines 24/7.
This brings us to this really beautiful idea called the synaptic homeostasis hypothesis, or SHI. And the core idea is simple. Sleep isn't a bug. It's a feature. It's the active, totally essential price our brain has to pay for its most amazing trick, the ability to change, learn, and form new memories.
I mean, think about it. As you go through your day, learning new things, the connections between your neurons, your synapses, they get stronger, they multiply. And if that just kept going, unchecked, your brain would run into some serious problems. First, those strong connections are massive energy hogs. Second, your brain would get saturated. You literally couldn't learn anything new. And third, all the important new memories, the signal, would get drowned out by all the trivial connections, the noise.
So what's the solution? Sleep. During deep sleep, the brain performs this incredibly elegant reset. We could actually see it with high-resolution imaging. The connections between neurons physically shrink by almost 20%. This synaptic pruning basically cleans house. It weakens the unimportant connections, which saves a ton of energy, and, most importantly, makes room for you to learn new things the next day. No sleep, no cleanup.
All right, let's switch gears to something we've all felt, being super irritable and short-tempered after a bad night's sleep. Turns out that's not just a personality flaw, it's a neurological hijacking. Sleep loss literally rewires the emotional circuits in your brain.
Here's how it works. In your well-rested brain, your prefrontal cortex, your rational, logical brain, acts like a set of brakes on your amygdala, which is your emotional gas pedal. It keeps everything in check, but when you're sleep-deprived, that connection is severed. The brake line gets cut and the accelerator gets floored. The result is a jaw-dropping 60% increase in emotional reactivity. You just become an exposed nerve, reacting wildly to everything.
So all of this leads us to the one final critical question that everybody asks. We're all busy. We all run up some sleep debt during the week. Can't we just, pay it back on the weekend? Well, unfortunately, the science reveals a really sobering paradox about recovery.
It's the strategy we all use, isn't it? Grind it out Monday to Friday, sleep in till noon on Saturday and Sunday, and boom, debt repaid, system reset. But does that actually work? Does it really bring you back to zero?
Here is the paradox, and it is a dangerous one. After that weekend of catch-up sleep, you feel way better. Your mood bounces back, you don't feel as tired, but, and this is a huge but, your objective cognitive performance, your attention, your reaction time, it's still significantly impaired. You're left with this huge gap between how good you feel and how poorly you're actually performing. It's a dangerous illusion of recovery.
So here's where we land. Sleep is not a luxury. It's not optional. It is the non-negotiable price for learning, for emotional stability, and for basic brain maintenance. We're now learning that during sleep, a kind of plumbing system in your brain, called the glymphatic system, flushes out toxic waste that builds up during the day. Waste like amyloid beta, which is linked to Alzheimer's. So the final question is pretty simple. Knowing that sleep is the price for a clean, functional brain, are you willing to stop paying?